You know what's wild? We spend our entire 20s chasing six-figure salaries at prestigious companies, and then wonder why we're still broke at 35. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to hear. That dream job you finally landed? The one with the impressive title and the salary that made your parents proud? It might be the exact reason you're not building wealth. Yeah, I said it. Stay with me. Look, I'm not here to tell you to quit your job and start a side hustle. I'm not going to sell you some course about passive income or crypto or whatever's trendy this week. I'm just here to point out something most personal finance gurus conveniently ignore. Sometimes the good salary is actually the problem. And before you click away thinking this is another "money doesn't buy happiness" lecture, it's not. This is about why people making $150,000 are often less financially free than people making $80,000. Let me show you what I mean. 1. The golden handcuffs. So you grinded through college, maybe grad school. You networked, you interviewed. You finally got that offer from the company everyone's heard of. $120,000 base salary. Stock options. Benefits that sound like they were designed by someone who actually cares. You did it. You made it. But here's what nobody tells you about dream job salaries. They come with dream job expectations. You're expected to live in an expensive city, usually one of like 5 cities where these jobs exist. So that $120,000? Cool. Your rent just became $2,800 for a one-bedroom. And no, you can't live in the suburbs an hour away, because you're also expected to be available, which is corporate speak for "we own your evenings too." Then there's the wardrobe. Can't show up to those client meetings in the same J.Crew shirt you've worn for 3 years. There's the lunch culture, because everyone else is expensing their $18 salads, and you don't want to be the person pulling out Tupperware. There's the post-work drinks because of networking, the weekend trips because of work-life balance, the upgraded car because, well, you can't pull into the parking garage in your 2011 Honda Civic anymore. And before you think I'm judging these choices, I'm not. I'm just asking you to do the math with me. Because here's where it gets interesting. 2. The lifestyle inflation trap. Let's run some actual numbers. Because I know someone's watching this thinking, but I save money. Let's say person A makes $80,000, lives in a medium-cost city, rents a decent place for $1,400, drives a paid-off car, brings lunch to work most days. Total monthly expenses after taxes, about $3,800. They're saving roughly $1,200 a month. As for person B, let's assume he makes $120,000, lives in a high-cost city because that's where the job is, pays $2,800 in rent, has a car payment because I deserve it after all that hard work, spends $500 per month on looking the part and networking. Total monthly expenses after taxes, about $6,200. They're saving roughly $800 a month. But wait. Is the person making $40,000 less is saving more? Yeah, and this isn't even accounting for the student loans that person B probably has from that prestigious degree that got them the prestigious job. But here's the real kicker, and this is the part that should make you uncomfortable. Person B is now said to be trapped. They can't take a pay cut to do something they'd actually enjoy because their entire life is structured around that $120,000. They can't move to a cheaper city. They can't take 6 months off to figure things out. They're stuck. That's the golden handcuffs, just that they're not even made of gold. They're made of lifestyle inflation. Now, some of you are thinking, just don't inflate your lifestyle then. And theoretically, you're right. But let's talk about why that's harder than it sounds. 3. The peer pressure nobody talks about. Here is what is insidious about high-earning environments. The pressure isn't explicit. Nobody's telling you to spend money, but everyone around you is. Your colleagues are talking about their weekend in Napa. Your boss drives a Tesla. The team lunch isn't at Chipotle. It's at that new farm-to-table place. Your coworkers are wearing clothes you know aren't from Target. And look, you can resist it. You can be the person who lives below their means in a sea of people living at their means. But that takes an insane amount of psychological fortitude. Every single day, you're swimming against the current. Meanwhile, person A making $80,000? Their coworkers are doing the same things they are. There's no comparison trap. No keeping up with the Joneses, because the Joneses are in the same boat. This is the part of personal finance nobody wants to admit. Environment matters more than willpower. You can have all the discipline in the world, but if you're surrounded by people normalizing $200 dinners, eventually $200 dinners start feeling normal. But wait, it gets worse. Because even if you do manage to save money at that dream job, there's another problem lurking. 4. The opportunity cost. Let's talk about time. Because that dream job salary, it's not free money. You're selling something for it. Your time, your energy, your mental space. That $120,000 job probably wants 50 to 60 hours a week from you. Probably some weekend emails. Definitely some evening. Can you just look at this real quick? Slack messages. So now you're too tired to cook, too exhausted to maintain your car, and you might as well pay for that premium service. No time to shop around for better insurance rates or refinance that loan or figure out a better phone plan. Every convenience becomes necessary because you've outsourced your time for salary. And here's the really uncomfortable question. What if you'd taken the $80,000 job, worked 40 hours a week, and used those extra 10 to 20 hours to actually build something? Learn a valuable skill? Start a small business? Invest in relationships that could lead to opportunities? I'm not saying everyone should do that. I'm saying that we never count the opportunity cost. We only see $120,000 versus $80,000 and think the first is obviously better. We don't see 60 hours sold versus 40 hours sold. We don't calculate what those extra 20 hours could compound into over a decade. And if you're thinking, but what about the career growth at the prestigious company? Yeah, let's talk about that myth too. 5. The reality check. Here's what I've noticed. People with those impressive resume-building jobs often stay stuck because of their resume. They're overqualified for the jobs they'd actually enjoy. They're too expensive for smaller companies to hire. They've specialized so hard into one thing that pivoting becomes terrifying. And they've built an identity around their job title that makes any step down feel like failure. Meanwhile, someone who's been making $80,000 and actually saving it, they have options. They have what rich people call freedom. They can take risks. They can say no. They can walk away from toxic situations because their burn rate is manageable. Financial freedom isn't about how much you make. It's about the gap between what you make and what you need. And sometimes, counterintuitively, a smaller salary creates a bigger gap. 6. So what do you actually do? Look, I'm not telling you to turn down good jobs. I'm telling you to be honest about what you're actually signing up for. If that dream job requires you to live in San Francisco and you genuinely love San Francisco, great. But if you're only there because that's where the job is, maybe run the numbers. Maybe consider that $85,000 remote job in a place where $85,000 actually means something. If that prestigious company is going to fast-track your career in a field you're genuinely passionate about, awesome. But if you're just there because it looks good on LinkedIn, maybe your future self would thank you for choosing the less impressive job that lets you build savings instead. And if you're already in that golden handcuff situation, here's my advice. Acknowledge it. Stop pretending you're choosing to stay. You're staying because you've built a life that requires your salary. That's fine, but at least be honest about it. Because once you're honest about it, you can start making different choices. You can start slowly deflating your lifestyle. You can start building an escape fund. You can start creating options. And if you're earlier in your career, you have a massive advantage right now. The best financial decision I ever made wasn't chasing the highest salary. It was choosing the life that gave me the most options. Some of you need to hear this. It's okay to make less money. It's okay to take the boring job. It's okay to prioritize time over prestige. It's okay to optimize for freedom instead of resume points. Because here's the real uncomfortable truth. Most people with impressive salaries and impressive titles are not wealthy. They're high income, sure. But wealth? Wealth is having options. Wealth is being able to walk away. Wealth is not needing the salary. So yeah, your dream job salary might be holding you back. Not because money is bad, but because the wrong money, in the wrong place, with the wrong expectations attached to it, that's just an expensive trap with good PR. If this made you uncomfortable, good. That's usually where the truth lives. Drop a comment and tell me if you've ever turned down more money for more freedom, or if you're currently stuck in those golden handcuffs trying to figure out how to get out. Let's actually talk about this stuff honestly for once. And if you want more realistic personal finance advice that won't try to sell you a course about passive income, you know what to do. Subscribe. I'll be here, telling you the things nobody else wants to say. See you in the next one.